The laptop sailed through the air in slow motion, my niece's laughter echoing as it tumbled toward the crackling fire pit. My daughter Vanessa's artwork, 3 months of portfolio pieces for her design school application, flashed before my eyes. The metallic thud as it hit the coals sent electric shocks through my fingertips. "That'll teach her not to show off," my sister Natalie declared, champagne glass raised in mock toast. My parents chuckled from their deck chairs, the firelight dancing across their approving faces. Vanessa's hand gripped mine so hard I felt bones shift. Her breathing came in short, silent gasps as we watched her future literally melt. The plastic warped, bubbled, and blackened. My family waited for the explosion, the tears, the scene they'd orchestrated. Instead, I smiled. The laughter died instantly. "My name is Phoebe. I'm 41 and a surgical nurse. This is the story of how I cauterized a family wound that had been bleeding for 20 years. Growing up with Natalie meant living in her shadow. She was 3 years older, effortlessly popular, and our parents' undeniable favorite. When we shared a room, she'd draw invisible lines down the middle, her side always larger, of course. When I achieved anything, she'd find ways to diminish it. They probably felt sorry for you," she'd whisper after I won academic awards. I'd learned to live with the small cuts, the backhanded compliments about my house. Quaint. The comments about my career choice. Noble to pick something stable over something ambitious. The remarks about my husband. "He's so loyal, like a good dog." David and I had separated 2 years ago, but I never bothered correcting their assumptions. Why give them another target? But Vanessa was different. My daughter had her father's artistic talent and my precision. At 17, she'd already sold digital designs to 2 gaming companies. The laptop wasn't a luxury. It was her future, purchased with 6 months of overnight shifts, careful budgeting, and skipped lunches. The annual family barbecue at my parents' lake house was supposed to be a celebration of Vanessa's early college acceptance. Instead, while we adults were drinking on the deck, Natalie's twins had grabbed the computer from Vanessa's backpack. Their mother's nod of approval was all they needed before tossing it into the flames. Now, across the fire pit, my smile grew wider as the silence stretched uncomfortably. My father cleared his throat. My mother's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. "Is something funny, Phoebe?" Natalie finally asked, her voice tight. "Just thinking about consequences," I replied, my tone hospital calm, the same voice I use before telling patients bad news. "Oh, lighten up," my father huffed. "Kids will be kids. You spoil Vanessa anyway." I turned to him with surgical focus. "And what exactly did I spoil her with, Dad? The extra shifts I worked while you complained about your property taxes, the lunches I skipped while you took Natalie's family to Aspen?" My sister rolled her eyes. "Here we go again with the martyr act. It's just stuff, Phoebe. Get over it." I nodded slowly. "You're right. It's just stuff." I stood, taking Vanessa's hand. "We're leaving now. But first," I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and held the screen up as I pressed transfer funds. "What are you doing?" my mother asked, her voice suddenly anxious. "Transferring the remaining balance of your medical loan to your account," I said. "I've been making payments for 3 years. Consider it paid in full as of tonight." My father's face paled. "But the terms, we can't afford." "The consequences," I reminded him softly. "Also, Natalie, I've informed the school board I can no longer coordinate the fundraiser that's been paying for the twins' private school tuition assistance." I smiled at her children, who suddenly looked less smug. "Perhaps they can earn scholarships on merit." Natalie's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the stone patio. "You can't do that." "I already have." I helped Vanessa gather her belongings. "Oh, and Mom, your standing hair appointment that mysteriously gets paid every month? I've canceled the automatic payment." My mother's hand flew to her salon-perfect hair. "But consider tonight the end of my family subsidy program," I said, guiding Vanessa toward the car. "You've all been living on my generosity while treating me like I'm nothing. That arrangement is over." The drive home was silent until Vanessa whispered, "They'll hate us now." "They already did," I replied. "The difference is, now they'll have to hate us without our money." Back at our modest 2-bedroom house across town, I explained everything to Vanessa. How for years I'd been the family's silent financial backbone, stepping in after my father's business failed 5 years ago. How I coordinated the school fundraiser as a board volunteer specifically to help Natalie's twins. How I managed accounts my family didn't even know existed. The revenge unfolded in quiet, systematic waves over the following weeks. No dramatic scenes, just the steady collapse of the safety nets I'd been providing. Natalie's twins discovered their private school tuition hadn't been paid when they were called to the office. My sister's frantic calls went straight to voicemail. Through a former colleague who still worked at the school, I heard about the twins being pulled aside by the administration, finally facing consequences for their actions. My parents found themselves scrambling to refinance their house when the loan suddenly came due in full. The family vacation home, which I'd been paying the taxes on for years without recognition, received a notice of delinquency. I knew because my father's panicked voicemails mentioned the certified letter they'd received from the county tax assessor. The fallout came 3 weeks later when they ambushed me in the hospital parking lot after my shift. Natalie's mascara tracked down her cheeks. My father leaned heavily on his cane, and my mother stood with her arms crossed, her roots showing for perhaps the first time in 30 years. "You've destroyed this family," Natalie hissed. I unlocked my car calmly. "No, I just stopped allowing you to destroy me." "We're drowning in bills," my father said. "The bank called about the lake house." "I paid that mortgage for 7 years," I reminded him. "The 7 years you told everyone it was your investment property." "We're family," my mother insisted. "You don't do this to family." I looked at them, really looked, for the first time in decades. "That's exactly my point. You don't do what you did to family. You don't burn your niece's future for entertainment. You don't mock your daughter's achievements. You don't take and take and take without acknowledgement, gratitude, or reciprocity." Natalie stepped forward, desperation replacing anger. "What do you want from us? An apology? Fine, I'm sorry about the stupid laptop." "I don't want anything from you anymore," I said, the realization washing over me like cool water. "That's the point. I'm free." I drove away, leaving them standing in the parking lot, suddenly visible to each other without me as their common enemy, their emotional punching bag, their financial crutch. That weekend, 2 days after the hospital confrontation, I took Vanessa to buy a new laptop. Better, faster, with expanded memory and professional-grade design software. As she set it up in her room, I noticed something on her desk, a small piece of warped, blackened metal. "What's this?" I asked, picking it up. "Part of the old laptop I found in the fire pit the next morning," she said. "I'm keeping it." "As a reminder of what they did?" I asked, my throat tightening. She shook her head. "As a reminder of what you did, how you stood up for us." She looked up, eyes clear and determined. "I'll never let anyone treat me the way they treated you." In that moment, watching her fingers fly confidently across the new keyboard, I realized the true revenge wasn't cutting them off. It was cutting myself free. The family pattern stopped with me. It would never touch my daughter. Over the next few months, I heard through mutual acquaintances that my parents had been forced to sell the lake house to cover their debts. They'd attempted to call me several times, but I maintained my distance, focusing instead on helping Vanessa prepare her college applications. 6 months later, Natalie appeared at my door unannounced. She looked different, thinner, with cheaper clothes and a humility I'd never seen before. "The twins are on academic probation," she said without greeting. "The school says they need to improve or they'll be expelled." I waited, saying nothing. "I can't afford tutors," she continued. "And I know Vanessa is good at—" "No," I said simply. She blinked. "You haven't even heard what I—" "I don't need to. The answer is no." I kept my hand on the door. Figure it out yourself, Natalie. That's what I've always had to do. She stared at me, and for a brief moment I saw something like respect flicker across her face. Then it hardened into the more familiar contempt. You've changed. I smiled, the same smile I'd worn across the fire pit as the laptop burned. Yes, that's the whole point. I closed the door gently but firmly, turned the deadbolt, and went back to the kitchen where Vanessa was working on her college applications. She glanced up at me. Was that worth it? She asked. I touched her shoulder. Yes, because justice doesn't need to scream or rage. I looked at the small piece of blackened laptop she kept on her desk as a talisman. Sometimes it just smiles. My parents never returned after that final attempt by Natalie. Last I heard, they'd moved to a smaller house in another state, their financial reality finally matching the image they'd presented to others. As for me and Vanessa, we moved forward, our relationship with the rest of the family permanently severed, but infinitely healthier for it. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles, zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.